Aujourd'hui, je vais parler de whether there's really an upper limit of income before people stop getting happier. And is this the often quoted 75K figure that's thrown around in the media? Hey, XenPuck here. Another day and it's almost another weekend. Of course, the weekend means something totally different to me these days, as my weekends are Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. I mean, I rub this into my wifey's face every single day, and then she gently admonishes me, and okay, I deserve it. But wait, what were we talking about again? Oh yes, the whole research shows that people don't get happier after they make past 75K idea, okay? Google it, it's a thing. I'm obviously too lazy to put multimedia graphics up on this video or cut to some other screen for your visual variety purposes. Jesus, you have Google and the rest of the internet, so you don't need me to hold your hand. Do ya? Anyway, so this research came out quite a few years ago. I want to say maybe a decade ago, but I'm also too lazy to confirm. Okay, just kidding. I'll link the article below. It is from around 10 years ago, right? But you get the point. The main idea is that people don't seem to increase in their level of happiness after making about $75,000 in the USA. As in, if you made, say, twice that much, you're certainly not twice as much happier, right? And oh boy, ever since this article came out, I've read a plethora of backlash, and today I'm going to address the main ones and finally reach a conclusion definitively as to whether I agree with this number or this idea in general. Okay. Point number one. Okay. Making over 75K no longer makes people happier, ignores cost of living adjustments. Okay, that's technically true, obviously, but completely irrelevant, right? Not only are there significant cost of living differences between different parts of the world or different parts of the US, there's literally cost of living adjustments that would need to be made within a city or a county or a town, okay? I mean, I'm from New York City, so I'll use that as a prime example, right? #1 metropolitan area in the United States. Does anyone really think that people in New York City living on the Upper East Side, one of the richest zip codes in the country, has spending pattern that's remotely similar to areas dominated by the housing projects of, say, East Brooklyn? I mean, no duh, you geniuses who raises this as a concern, okay? But the article that talks about the feelings of many statistical variants are meant to be talking about the median type of person in any geographical areas only, right? And frankly, for the US at least, where the average household only makes about $60,000 a year, 75K as a cutoff point seems completely reasonable. I mean, would that number cover the bougie yuppies of coastal cities? Of course not. But always using the bougie coastal urban dwellers, okay, as examples, and I should probably include myself in this group, right, if I'm being perfectly frank. That's actually exactly the reason that somehow we voted in a giant orange douche to the presidency a few years ago in the first place, right? Most Americans are not facing the pressures of New York City or Bay Area. They have to somehow make do with $60,000 a year for an average family size of 2.3. So any income level over that medium would probably seem reasonable as a guesstimate in terms of what type of joys that it may bring. Okay. Point number two, the amount of 75K is outdated and needs to be updated because of inflation. Okay, another backlash point that is technically true, but for those people who raise this objection, once again, is missing the point. So the figure 75K came from a research from about 2010, so we're a little bit past the decade mark later. Sure, adjusting for inflation, I boost that amount up to some arbitrary higher amount, right? Using a handy-dandy internet calculator, apparently 75K in USD from 2010 is worth about 94K in USD today. Okay, but I don't think the article's point, the quote, is for some absolute value that would never ever change, right? But to indicate that there is in fact some static value after which more money simply doesn't increase your happiness further, or at least that's how I took it, right? Now, for those of you who thinks that any specific number reported by news should hold still for the rest of time, I mean, not sure what to tell you except maybe stop telling the youngins that when you were young, a candy pop only cost a penny, right? Inflation is constant and forever, right? And while the exact figure certainly will change, the principle does not, and that is most people tend to think that more money equals more happiness, and that's just plain on not true, okay? I know this personally, right? Obviously, nobody wants to worry about basic life needs, right? But once you get over that, you know, we're talking about a roof and some food, and get over some minor, small luxuries, how happy you are depends on what? Your personality, okay? Not whether you can afford slightly fancier crap that nobody needed to begin with. Don't believe me? It's really easy to test. Just go blow your own dough on some more crap that you usually buy and see how well that turns out. Not like the day after, but a month after or a year after, okay? We know, like, I think we all really know that this is how this affects us ourselves in our hearts. So I don't think I'm trying to convince anyone. The question here is just that whether there is some specific amount, right? Point number 3. Finally, I've also heard people say that it's not that there's a 75K upper limit, you know, past which people don't get happier. It's more about how everyone simply gets happier with a bit more than what they have right now. And since the median household makes 60K, making 15K more than that, you know, being the average number fulfills this criteria, right? This one I actually think is the most, probably the most relevant rebuttal to the absolute amount type of, threshold before our happiness stops increasing, right? I do think most people judge their situations subjectively. Okay, so if you grew up already in the middle class, you probably aspire to be rich, whereas if you grew up poor, getting to the middle class might seem good enough, right? But this runs the similar type of pickle at the end, you know, in terms of similar to how I would address point number 1, which is that while most people want more and more, the vast majority are still in like the middle tier or below, right? And can only see up to the upper middle class, which 75K in 2010 or 94K in 2021 would put them, you know, in the grand scheme of the geographical location that we are. So yes, we're all greedy little bastards, and honestly, even people worth $1 million just chases those worth 10, yada yada yada. Those people simply cannot be easily represented in any specific article that's trying to address a common, you know, general public, right? Trying to make a easy to absorb point. So, for me, the conclusion is this. Is 75K and or its inflation-adjusted equivalent the absolute limit after which happiness increases much more slowly when it, when it comes to additional income? Most likely, yes. But certainly that's not true for everyone, right? But all the rebuttals about the edge cases, such as, you know, inflation or like how everybody just wants to make relatively more, they're missing the main point. The main point is that no matter who you are, at some point, you will definitely hit a spot where making more money no longer increases your happiness level proportionally. That is an absolute certainty, and the reason is very, very simple, right? Now, for those of you who don't have basic life needs, you may not understand this, but I'm talking about everybody else, right? Especially since I make videos for people who want to get to financial independence, okay? Money is like points in a game after you've gotten past the basic needs, right? After that, more money is just about pride and ego and looking better in front of your perceived peers. So I would suggest let that shit go, honestly. That's why I chose to retire early. Why would I let anyone else, even society at large, dictate what's important to me? Only I get to decide what's important to me, right? And what I value has very little to do with fancy cars or having more stuff. Now, money is absolutely essential to living my best life, right? At a basic level. It's just not the only thing that matters, right? So let me know what's your desired income level to finally realize that more money doesn't mean much anymore. Or do you think that you'll always be slaving away for more, like most people? Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe and all that jazz. Cheers.